On paper, it looked like a tragic accident, a loving couple celebrating success when the husband suddenly collapsed. But seasoned detectives know that when everything appears flawless, something is almost always wrong. And in the case of Kevin Dowd's death, almost didn't even come close. The call to the Clearwater Police Department was logged at 8:47 p.m. on July 18, 2024. The address corresponded to a residential subdivision in Clearwater, Florida, characterized in municipal records as an established neighborhood with wide lots, mature landscaping and monitored security gate entry logs. The responding officers arrived at the residence of Kevin and Marion Dowd after confirming the gate's visitor log showed no external entries after 5:30 p.m. inside the home. Officers found 43-year-old Kevin Dowd seated at the dining table. His posture was upright, his head tilted slightly to one side, hands resting flat near his plate. Paramedics from Pinellas County Emergency Services assessed him and declared him deceased at the scene. The immediate visual assessment revealed no overturned chairs, no visible trauma, and no evidence of a physical altercation. On the table were two place settings arranged with deliberate symmetry, one plate partially consumed, the other with minimal disturbance beyond a few scattered fork lines. Officers documented a wine glass positioned directly in front of Kevin and a second glass placed at the opposite setting. 41-year-old Marion Dowd was standing near the kitchen entryway. Officers noted that she was holding a folded cloth napkin, calmly repeating that Kevin had collapsed without any prior indication of distress during what she described as a private celebratory dinner. She stated that he had shown no signs of discomfort earlier in the evening. When asked to describe what occurred, she said Kevin had taken 2 bites from his plate, lifted his wine glass, then suddenly stopped mid-motion, set the glass down and became unresponsive. Detective Ryan Abrams, 44, assigned as the primary investigator based on departmental case rotation and his background in unexplained fatalities, arrived within 30 minutes of the initial call. Abrams had handled multiple sudden death investigations over the preceding 18 months, and something about the positioning of Kevin's body immediately struck him as inconsistent. The rigidity in Kevin's seated posture and the lack of defensive movement suggested a rapid onset of incapacitation rather than a gradual medical event. He also observed that the room displayed an unusual level of order: no knocked-over items, no indication of attempted resuscitation, and none of the chaotic energy typically present when someone witnesses a loved one in a medical crisis. Before we continue, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Abrams asked Marion to confirm whether anyone else had been present in the home. She stated that they had been alone all evening. The dinner, she explained, had been planned to celebrate a recent business milestone Kevin had achieved. According to her account, she had prepared the meal using ingredients purchased that morning from a local market. She denied that any visitors had stopped by. When asked about Kevin's recent health history, Marion stated that he had been in good physical condition, though he had mentioned feeling tired from work-related travel. Abrams made note of one additional detail: Marion had not asked a single question about what might have caused Kevin's collapse. In his experience, that silence was louder than any explanation she had offered. The investigation that followed would reveal that this carefully arranged dinner scene was only the surface of something far more calculated, and that the most critical decision Kevin Dowd ever made had occurred exactly 24 hours before he sat down at that table. The Pinellas County Medical Examiner's Office received Kevin Dowd's body at 11:15 p.m. on July 18. Dr. Sarah Ventura, the chief forensic pathologist assigned to the case, began the external examination the following morning. Standard protocol for unexplained deaths required a full autopsy, toxicology screening, and tissue sample preservation. What Dr. Ventura discovered during the initial assessment would redirect the entire investigation. Kevin Dowd's external presentation showed no signs of blunt force trauma, no ligature marks, and no indicators of mechanical asphyxiation. His internal organ examination revealed mild fatty liver deposits consistent with moderate alcohol consumption, but no structural abnormalities that would explain sudden cardiac arrest. His coronary arteries showed minimal plaque buildup, nowhere near the threshold for a fatal cardiac event. Dr. Ventura noted in her preliminary report that the cause of death remained undetermined pending chemical analysis. The toxicology results arrived 6 days later. The report identified a rare organophosphate compound in Kevin's bloodstream and gastric contents at concentrations well above lethal thresholds. The substance was not commonly found in household products or prescription medications. It was, however, consistent with industrial-grade pesticides used in agricultural pest control. The compound's presence was definitive. Kevin Dowd had not died of natural causes. He had been poisoned. Dr. Ventura immediately contacted Detective Abrams. The finding triggered a secondary forensic examination of the physical evidence collected from the dining table. The Florida Department of Law Enforcement Crime Lab in Tampa processed samples from both dinner plates, the wine glasses, the serving dishes, and residual food material retrieved from the kitchen. The results were unambiguous. The toxic compound was present only in the food on Kevin's plate. Marion's plate, tested separately, returned negative for any foreign chemical agents. The wine glasses both tested clean. The serving dishes in the kitchen showed no contamination. The selective poisoning was not accidental. Someone had deliberately introduced the toxin into Kevin's portion of the meal while leaving Marion's untouched. Detective Abrams convened a case conference with the Clearwater Police Major Crimes Unit on July 26. The investigation's focus shifted from unexplained death to suspected homicide. A financial background inquiry was immediately authorized. Investigators obtained subpoenas for banking records, credit reports, loan applications, and digital financial activity for both Kevin and Marion Dowd. The financial portrait that emerged was striking in its contrast. Kevin's accounts reflected stable, well-managed wealth. His primary checking account maintained a balance exceeding $200,000. His investment portfolio, managed through a registered financial advisor, held diversified assets valued at approximately $3.8 million. His real estate holdings, including the Clearwater residence, 2 rental properties in Tampa, and a commercial office building in St. Petersburg, were appraised collectively at over $4.2 million. Kevin Dowd was not merely comfortable. He was exceptionally wealthy. Marion's financial records told a vastly different story. Her personal checking account showed a balance of $847 at the time of Kevin's death. 3 credit cards in her name were within 5% of their maximum limits, with combined outstanding balances totaling $67,000. Investigators identified 6 separate loan applications submitted over the preceding 4 months, 3 to private lenders, 2 to peer-to-peer lending platforms, and 1 to a high-risk payday loan service. All 6 applications had been rejected due to insufficient collateral and unfavorable debt-to-income ratios. What caught Detective Abrams' attention was the language Marion had used in 2 of the loan applications. In the section requesting justification for the requested funds, she had written, "Temporary liquidity issue pending estate settlement," and "short-term bridge loan until inheritance transfer is finalized." These statements strongly implied that Marion anticipated imminent access to significant assets she believed she would receive through Kevin's death. On July 28, investigators executed a search warrant for the Dowd residence. The forensic computer analyst assigned to the case, Special Agent Lisa Tran from the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, retrieved Marion's personal laptop and external hard drive. A preliminary scan of the browser history revealed a pattern of searches conducted in the weeks leading up to Kevin's death. The search queries included, undetectable poisons in food, symptoms of pesticide poisoning in humans, how long does toxicology testing take after death, Florida inheritance law when spouse dies without will, and can life insurance be denied for poisoning. Agent Tran also recovered deleted files from Marion's cloud storage account. Among them were draft documents outlining estimated probate timelines, calculations of Kevin's net worth based on property tax assessments, and a spreadsheet titled Post-Transfer Budget that listed anticipated monthly expenses following what Marion had labeled as estate access date, August 2024. The financial investigation produced one additional critical piece of evidence. Bank transaction records showed that Marion had made a cash withdrawal of $320 on July 10, 8 days before Kevin's death. Surveillance footage obtained from the bank's ATM confirmed the withdrawal. Investigators then cross-referenced her location data and credit card transactions from that day. At 2:47 p.m. on July 10, Marion's vehicle was recorded entering the parking lot of Agri-Supply Solutions, a retail supplier of commercial-grade agricultural chemicals located 30 miles outside Clearwater. A cash purchase receipt recovered from the trash bin in the Dowd garage matched the date, location, and approximate transaction amount. The receipt did not specify the product purchased, but the store's inventory logs, obtained via subpoena, indicated that a customer matching Marion's description had inquired about fast-acting pest elimination products that day. By the first week of August, the case against Marion Dowd had evolved from suspicion to substantial evidentiary foundation. Detectives had toxicology proof, financial motive, digital evidence of premeditation, and a purchasing trail that connected Marion directly to the type of chemical used to kill her husband. What had initially appeared to be a sudden and unexplained death was now clearly a calculated act of murder. Marion, however, remained outwardly composed. In the days following Kevin's death, she had contacted his financial advisor, his real estate attorney, and 2 separate probate specialists. She had requested expedited processing of the estate and asked multiple times about the timeline for asset transfer. She appeared to believe that her financial troubles were over, that Kevin's wealth would soon be hers to manage. But Marion Dowd did not know what Detective Abrams was about to discover. And when that discovery was made, everything she had planned, everything she had risked, and everything she believed she had secured would collapse in a single, irreversible moment. On August 3rd, Detective Abrams received a voicemail from Kenneth Marsh, senior partner at Marsh & Colton Legal Group in downtown St. Petersburg, requesting an immediate meeting regarding the estate of Kevin Dowd. Marsh identified himself as Kevin's attorney of record for the past 11 years and stated that he possessed information directly relevant to the ongoing investigation. Abrams and Detective Lisa Cortez arrived at Marsh's office at 10 a.m. the following morning. Marsh, 62, had practiced estate law for over 3 decades and maintained meticulous documentation of all client interactions. He led the detectives into a private conference room and placed a sealed manila folder on the table. Inside were documents that would fundamentally alter the trajectory of the case. Marsh explained that Kevin Dowd had contacted his office on the morning of July 16 requesting an urgent appointment to amend his last will and testament. The appointment was scheduled for 2 p.m. on July 17, exactly 1 day before the dinner that would end Kevin's life. Marsh confirmed that Kevin arrived alone, appeared calm but resolute, and spent approximately 90 minutes in the conference room reviewing the proposed changes. The amendments were comprehensive and unambiguous. Kevin directed that Marion Dowd be removed entirely as a beneficiary of his estate. In her place, Kevin established an irrevocable trust naming his younger sister, Rebecca Harmon, as the primary trustee, with his 2 nieces, Rebecca's daughters, ages 19 and 16, designated as equal beneficiaries of 100% of his assets upon his death. The trust documents specified that no portion of Kevin's real estate holdings, financial accounts, investment portfolios, or life insurance proceeds would transfer to Marion under any circumstances. Marsh stated that during their conversation, Kevin had not provided explicit details but had made several references that suggested concern. Kevin mentioned that he had recently discovered financial discrepancies he could not explain, that certain credit accounts had been opened without his knowledge, and that he suspected someone in his immediate household was attempting to position themselves for access to his wealth. Kevin did not accuse Marion directly during the meeting, but Marsh noted that Kevin's language, particularly his use of the phrase, "someone close to me," implied suspicion of his spouse. Kevin signed the amended will at 3:34 p.m. on July 17 in the presence of 2 witnesses, both paralegals employed by the firm, and the document was notarized immediately afterward, making it legally binding under Florida probate law. Marsh retained the original in the firm's secure document vault and provided Kevin with a certified copy. Less than 30 hours later, Kevin was dead. Marsh had not been aware of Kevin's death until he received a notification from the Pinellas County Clerk of Court regarding the initiation of probate proceedings. When he reviewed the case file and saw that Marion had filed as the surviving spouse and presumed heir, he immediately contacted law enforcement. Florida statute required that the most recent legally executed will take precedence, and Marsh was obligated to present the amended document to the probate court. The formal reading of the will was scheduled for August 9 at the Pinellas County Courthouse. Marion Dowd, her appointed probate attorney, Kevin's sister Rebecca, and Detective Abrams were all present in the courtroom when the clerk read the terms of Kevin's final testament. The moment the clerk announced that Marion had been removed as a beneficiary and that all assets had been transferred to a trust excluding her entirely, Marion's physical reaction was immediate and unmistakable. Her face drained of color within seconds, her hands began trembling visibly, and she gripped the edge of the table in front of her as if to steady herself. She attempted to speak but could not form coherent words. Her attorney leaned toward her, asking if she needed a recess, but Marion shook her head repeatedly, her eyes fixed on the clerk. When the reading concluded, Marion's first question, directed at her attorney in a voice barely above a whisper, was whether the will could be changed or challenged. Her attorney explained that a will signed, witnessed, and notarized in accordance with Florida law could only be contested under very specific circumstances, such as evidence of undue influence, lack of testamentary capacity, or fraud, none of which appeared applicable in Kevin's case. Marion asked again, her voice rising slightly, whether there was any legal mechanism to reverse the amendments. Her attorney repeated that the document was legally binding. Marion then asked if Kevin's sister could voluntarily transfer the assets back to her, and her attorney explained that Rebecca, as trustee, was bound by fiduciary duty to manage the trust according to Kevin's explicit instructions, which provided no distribution to Marion. Detective Abrams, seated in the gallery, observed Marion's response with clinical attention. What he witnessed was not the reaction of a grieving widow learning unexpected news about her late husband's estate. It was the reaction of someone whose entire plan had just disintegrated. There was no sadness in her expression, no confusion, no questions about why Kevin might have made such a decision. There was only panic, raw, unfiltered panic. She did not ask why Kevin had excluded her. She did not express hurt or betrayal. She asked only whether the outcome could be undone. In that moment, the motive that had been building throughout the investigation crystallized with absolute clarity. Marion Dowd had poisoned her husband believing she would inherit millions of dollars. She had researched poisons, purchased toxic chemicals, contaminated his food, and calmly called 911 after watching him die, all under the assumption that his wealth would become hers. But Kevin had protected his assets 24 hours before she acted. Marion had killed for money she would never receive, and the realization that her plan had been rendered meaningless before it even began was written across her face in a way no amount of composure could conceal. Detective Abrams left the courthouse and immediately contacted the state attorney's office. By 4 p.m. that afternoon, a warrant had been issued for Marion Dowd's arrest on charges of first-degree murder. Marion Dowd was taken into custody on August 9 at 6:15 p.m. outside the Pinellas County Courthouse and transported to the Clearwater Police Department's Major Crimes Division for formal questioning. She was read her Miranda rights, acknowledged that she understood them, and after consulting briefly with her attorney via phone, agreed to speak with detectives without legal counsel present, a decision her attorney later described as catastrophic. Detective Abrams and Detective Lisa Cortez entered interview room 3 at 7:42 p.m., and what followed over the next 2 hours would provide the final pieces of evidence needed to secure a murder conviction. The interrogation began with procedural formality. Abrams restated Marion's rights, confirmed she was waiving her right to an attorney, and explained that the conversation was being recorded. Then he opened a black binder and placed the first document on the table, the toxicology report from the Pinellas County Medical Examiner's Office. He slid it toward Marion and asked her to read the highlighted section identifying the organophosphate compound found in Kevin's gastric contents and bloodstream. Marion glanced at it briefly but said nothing. Abrams then presented the forensic lab results showing that the toxin had been detected exclusively in Kevin's portion of the meal while her plate tested negative for any contamination. Marion's expression remained blank, but her breathing had quickened. Cortez placed a second set of photographs on the table. Images of vial fragments recovered from the kitchen trash bin during the August search warrant execution. Fragments that field testing confirmed had contained chemical residue consistent with the poison that killed Kevin. Marion looked at the photos but still did not speak. Abrams continued methodically, presenting copies of Marion's loan applications, specifically the sections where she referenced pending estate settlement and inheritance transfer as justification for the requested funds. He asked her directly why she had written those statements if she had no reason to believe Kevin was going to die. Marion's first response was a quiet denial. She said the applications were speculative, that she had been exploring financial options in case something happened to Kevin in the future, that it was simply planning, nothing more. Abrams did not argue with her. Instead, he produced printed screenshots of her laptop search history, undetectable poisons in food, symptoms of pesticide poisoning in humans, Florida inheritance law when spouse dies without will, and how long does toxicology testing take after death. He placed each search query in front of her one at a time, reading the dates aloud, all conducted within 3 weeks of Kevin's death. Marion's hands, which had been resting flat on the table, began to curl inward. She insisted the searches were for a crime novel she had been researching, a claim Abrams noted but did not challenge directly. Cortez then introduced a new piece of evidence that Marion had not anticipated. Cell phone extraction data obtained through a warrant served on her mobile carrier. The data showed that on the night of Kevin's death, Marion had not called 911 immediately after Kevin collapsed. According to the timeline reconstructed from her phone's activity logs, Kevin became unresponsive at approximately 8:40 p.m. Marion did not dial 911 until 8:47 p.m., a delay of 7 minutes. During that 7-minute window, Marion's phone records showed that she had opened her mobile banking application twice, spending a combined total of 4 minutes navigating account screens. Cortez asked Marion what she had been doing during those 7 minutes while her husband was dying at the table. Marion stammered, claiming she had panicked, that she didn't remember checking her phone, that everything had happened so fast. Her voice, which had been steady at the start of the interrogation, was now strained and defensive. Abrams leaned forward slightly and asked her a direct question. "Marion, did you poison Kevin?" She denied it immediately, her tone rising, insisting she had nothing to do with his death. Then, in a shift that Abrams later described as a classic deflection tactic, Marion changed her approach. She said that Kevin had never supported her financially, that he controlled all the money, that she had been forced to live under restrictions while he spent freely. She claimed that she had contributed to his success, that she had supported him for years, and that she deserved to be taken care of. Her voice carried resentment now, not grief. She said, "He never helped me financially. I deserved something too." Abrams let her speak, allowing the statement to settle into the recording. Then he reached into the binder and removed the final document, the amended will signed by Kevin on July 17th, the day before his death. He placed it directly in front of Marion and pointed to the section that removed her as a beneficiary and transferred all assets to the trust for Kevin's sister and nieces. He told her that Kevin had suspected someone close to him was trying to access his wealth and had taken steps to protect his estate. He told her that Kevin had signed this document 24 hours before she poisoned him. Marion stared at the will, her face pale, her lips pressed tightly together. Abrams asked her if she had known about the amendment before Kevin died. She shook her head but said nothing. He asked her again more firmly. She shook her head again, her hands now trembling visibly. Cortez asked her directly, "Marion, if you poisoned Kevin believing you would inherit his money, but he had already removed you from the will the day before, what does that mean?" Marion's composure, which had been fracturing incrementally throughout the interrogation, finally collapsed. She brought both hands up to cover her face, her shoulders curling inward, her breathing shallow and uneven. For several seconds she said nothing. Then, in a voice barely audible, muffled behind her hands, she whispered, "He wasn't supposed to change anything." The room went silent. Abrams and Cortez exchanged a brief glance but neither spoke. Marion remained motionless, her hands still covering her face. Abrams waited, allowing the weight of her statement to linger. Then he asked her to repeat what she had just said. Marion lowered her hands slowly, her eyes red but dry, and stared at the table. She did not repeat the statement. She did not need to. It had been captured on the recording and it was enough. That single sentence, "He wasn't supposed to change anything," was an admission of motive, an acknowledgement of intent, and a confirmation that Marion had acted on the belief that Kevin's death would result in financial gain. It was the final piece of evidence the prosecution needed, and Marion Dowd had delivered it herself. The state of Florida versus Marion Elizabeth Dowd commenced on February 12, 2025, in the 6th Judicial Circuit Court of Pinellas County, with Judge Harold Brennan presiding and a jury of 7 women and 5 men seated after 3 days of voir dire. The prosecution, led by Assistant State Attorney David Kellerman, opened with a statement that framed the case not as a crime of passion but as a calculated act of financial murder. A woman who poisoned her husband for money she believed she would inherit, only to discover too late that he had protected his assets from her the day before she killed him. Over the following 3 weeks, the state presented a methodical and devastating case built on forensic evidence, financial records, digital footprints, and Marion's own words. Dr. Sarah Ventura, the chief forensic pathologist who had conducted Kevin's autopsy, testified on the second day of trial. She explained in precise technical language that the organophosphate compound detected in Kevin's system was not a substance found in typical household environments, that the concentration levels were sufficient to cause rapid neuromuscular failure, respiratory collapse, and death within minutes of ingestion, and that the toxin's presence exclusively in Kevin's gastric contents and bloodstream indicated intentional administration rather than environmental contamination. Under cross-examination, the defense attempted to suggest the possibility of accidental exposure, but Dr. Ventura dismantled the theory by noting that the forensic testing of Marion's plate, the serving dishes, and all other food items in the home had returned negative results. Only Kevin's portion of the meal contained the poison, a specificity that could not occur by accident. The following day, criminalist Rebecca Howe from the Florida Department of Law Enforcement Crime Lab testified about the vial fragments recovered from the Dowd residence and the chemical residue analysis conducted on those fragments. She confirmed that the residue matched the compound found in Kevin's body and that the vial's original contents were consistent with industrial-grade pesticides sold through agricultural supply retailers. Prosecutor Kellerman introduced into evidence the cash receipt recovered from the Dowd home, the ATM withdrawal record showing Marion's $320 cash transaction on July 10, and surveillance footage from Agri-Supply Solutions showing Marion entering the store that same afternoon. The store manager testified that a woman matching Marion's description had inquired about fast-acting pest elimination products and had made a cash purchase, a transaction method the manager described as unusual given that most customers used credit cards for inventory tracking purposes. Special Agent Lisa Tran, the digital forensic analyst who had examined Marion's laptop and cloud storage accounts, provided testimony that proved particularly damaging. She walked the jury through a timeline of Marion's internet search history, highlighting queries about undetectable poisons, pesticide toxicity, inheritance law, and probate processing times, all conducted in the weeks leading up to Kevin's death. Tran also presented deleted files recovered from Marion's cloud account, including a spreadsheet labeled post-transfer budget, that outlined Marion's anticipated monthly expenses following what she had projected as an August 2024 estate access date. Under questioning from Kellerman, Tran confirmed that the spreadsheet calculations were based on the estimated value of Kevin's real estate and financial assets, and that the document had been created on June 29, nearly 3 weeks before Kevin's death. The defense objected repeatedly, arguing that internet searches alone did not constitute evidence of intent, but Judge Brennan overruled each objection, noting that the searches formed part of a larger pattern of premeditated conduct. The financial component of the case was established through testimony from 3 separate loan officers who had processed Marion's rejected applications in the months before Kevin's death. Each officer confirmed that Marion had referenced pending inheritance or estate settlement as justification for the loans, and one officer recalled that Marion had specifically mentioned Kevin's real estate portfolio as collateral she would soon have access to. Bank records introduced into evidence showed that Marion's personal accounts were severely overextended, with credit card debt exceeding $67,000 and a checking account balance that had dipped below $1,000 multiple times in the 6 months prior to the murder. Kellerman used the financial testimony to construct a portrait of desperation, a woman buried in debt, cut off from her husband's wealth, and willing to kill to access money she believed was within reach. The prosecution's final witness was Detective Ryan Abrams, who recounted the interrogation of August 9 and played the audio recording of Marion's statement. He wasn't supposed to change anything. The courtroom fell silent as Marion's voice, strained and barely audible, echoed through the speakers. Abrams testified that in his assessment, the statement was a clear acknowledgement that Marion had acted with the expectation of financial benefit and that Kevin's amendment of the will had rendered her plan meaningless. The defense, led by attorney Monica Feldstein, attempted to counter the prosecution's narrative by arguing that Marion had been suffering from severe emotional and psychological stress, that her internet searches reflected anxiety rather than intent, and that the lack of direct eyewitness testimony left reasonable doubt as to whether Marion had actually administered the poison. Feldstein suggested that Kevin may have been exposed to the toxin through an unidentified third party or through accidental contamination that the investigation had failed to identify. She called 2 character witnesses who described Marion as a devoted wife and a compassionate person, and a psychologist who testified that Marion exhibited signs of financial trauma and dependent personality traits. But the defense's efforts were insufficient to overcome the volume and consistency of the evidence. On March 7, 2025, after 11 hours of deliberation, the jury returned a unanimous verdict: guilty of first-degree murder, guilty of unlawful procurement of a toxic agent, guilty of attempted fraud, and guilty of evidence tampering. Marion showed no visible reaction as the verdict was read, staring straight ahead with her hands folded in her lap. Sentencing was scheduled for March 21. Judge Brennan, after hearing victim impact statements from Kevin's sister Rebecca and his 2 nieces, imposed the maximum penalty allowed under Florida law: life in prison without the possibility of parole. In his remarks, Judge Brennan stated that the crime reflected not a momentary lapse in judgment but a sustained and deliberate plan to murder for financial gain, and that the calculated nature of Marion's actions warranted the most severe punishment available. Marion was remanded to the custody of the Florida Department of Corrections and transferred to Lowell Correctional Institution to begin serving her sentence. Kevin's estate, as directed by his amended will, was transferred in full to the irrevocable trust managed by his sister Rebecca, with his nieces designated as equal beneficiaries. The real estate holdings, investment accounts, and life insurance proceeds, totaling over $8 million, were distributed according to Kevin's final wishes, ensuring that the wealth he had built over his lifetime would support his family rather than the woman who had taken his life. In the weeks following the trial, Detective Abrams reflected on the case in a conversation with Detective Cortez. He noted that Kevin Dowd had not known, on the afternoon of July 17 when he signed the amended will, that Marion would poison him less than 30 hours later. But Kevin had known something. He had sensed that someone close to him was positioning themselves to take what wasn't theirs, and he had acted to protect his legacy. In doing so, Kevin had inadvertently created the evidence that would convict his own murderer, ensuring that even in death, his final decision would bring justice.